everyone. Welcome to the GSHSW.com podcast near fall. I am Donald J. Brower. We are in the throes of the wrestling season. Depending on your team, you've had a match already. Some are waiting till beginning of next week, the 18th, till like Tuesday, Wednesday. A lot of tournaments this weekend. We're going to go over some of the stuff we covered in area, out of area. Lots of stuff coming up. We also have a great, nice interview with Vin Russo. Vin Russo is one of my favorite people in the sport of wrestling. Took some time to talk to us, not only about his life, wrestling, and everything, just told some stories, his opinion on things. Got a chance to talk with him a little bit. Before we get to that, let's get to the sponsors. We got our five. You know who they are. Champion Athletes, Dan Warnikoff. I got a chance to see this weekend, as I was watching, a lot of kids who were wrestling not seem like they were energized and out of gas. Dan Warnikoff helps you with that. Your body is a car. You can do all the work. You do everything you want. You need the right fuel. Dan will do that. And if you saw our interview earlier this year, it's not a pre-processed meal plan where you get the box, you get the microwave them. He gives you a list of stuff that you go to the store, you buy, and the whole family can enjoy. It's simple little adjustments. And Dan Warnikoff is the man. Champion Athletes, Dan Warnikoff. Apex Wrestling. 3 in New Jersey, 1 location in New York, another one soon on the way. Tabano, Logan, the co-founders, college roommates in Michigan. Huge supporters of what we do here. Apex Wrestling, fastest growing wrestling school in New Jersey. The Harrington Companies. You own a house. And it's a dump. You want to rip it down? Call Harrington Construction and Recycling. You want to have a nice house? You want to build something? Call Hoffman Landscaping, Harrington Construction, and you can do anything you want to. Harrington family, big supporters. Performance Trophies and Medals. Conveniently located at 236 South Salem Street in Randolph, New Jersey, right off Route 10. They're honoring achievements, one award at a time. We are actually finalizing, and we're going to have that meeting this week. We have a really, really cool thing we're going to be doing with Performance Trophies and Medals to honor our wrestlers and what they do on the mat this year. That's going to be something we want to keep an eye on. So trust us, performance PT medals, performance trophies. And our final one, Forum Coffee, redefining the New Jersey coffee experience. Location in East Hanover, location in Livingston. There's now a location in West Orange. You're going to be opening up in Cedar Grove and Chatham. They're from New Jersey. They're the Grogan family. You know them. You know they wrestled for Del Barton. The family's been integrated. They are the official coffee of GSHSW.com. Now, people have been asking me, if you don't know already, the videos are up. I know apparently I need to do my spell check better because I didn't realize it was the 13th and it said the 14th. So, but they're all up now. Every video's up. Every team we cover, every boy, every girl, they're up and they're all posted. Now, if you look at your video and your video is only footage of the outside of the school or something like that, and it's me voicing it over, that's not because I excluded the school. That's because either the school excluded me or there was an issue with practice. Like coach told me, hey, practice is going to be from 3 to 5:30 and we have a cameraman then, and you decide to stop practice at 4. That's not really something we can handle, or reschedule this year, especially with how the season's going and trying to get everything up. So if there's a problem with the shortness of your video, I'm not the one you got to yell at. You got to go talk to that guy, either the guy on the side of the mat or the guy in the office up the street, at the athletic director's office. One thing that is new, and I've already kind of gotten a grasp on a little bit, I had said the last couple videos that the rankings weren't really ready yet. I've started sort of piecing them together from, the ideas, and this is tough, still early, obviously with tournaments going, not everybody, really on the mat. So I kind of have my rough first rankings up. They're posted right now. But those are kind of my ideas. You can check them out on the standings page. They're right there, my top 10 for each area. They'll obviously change going forward. That just is going to happen with everything. So, you'll have along those lines with, everything we do. But they're pretty much a work in progress, but they're the first draft, if you will. So we're not complete yet, but we're pretty close. Now, Want to talk about a little bit of places we were this week as the season kicked off. A lot of holiday tournaments, but we started off our week December 11th at Bound Brook, an area we're not usually in, but we got the call with the match of the week. And this shows you the match of the week votes we do. We're going out there. So if you voted in and you want to see, we are not just blowing you off saying, hey, forget it. We're out there. We're ready to go. So we went down to Immaculata and Bound Brook. Great matchup there. Immaculata won 50-30. James Clark was on the call. We were down. So we are open to moving other ones, and we got rave reviews from everybody who loved the coverage we did. And, we enjoy going anywhere. We have camera, will travel to come cover wrestling. Another match we had the next day, really nail biter, came down to the last bout when Christian Mersha picked up the victory to send his team to the win. Pompton Lakes over Sparta, 39-34. I told people this in my preview videos. If you had a chance to look at them, I talked with them over some press this weekend. Sparta and Pompton Lakes, yes, they met early this season. They're going to surprise some people, those two schools. Pompton Lakes is scary good. Like, scary good. So keep an eye on Pompton Lakes. They're going to do some stuff. And Sparta the same way. Those are two teams that I think are going to quietly sneak up on some people and scare them and pick up some wins. And they're two teams you don't want to sleep on this year. Got our chance to do the Caldwell tournament on Saturday. First time there. Loved it. The food alone. Anytime you can get catered food from anywhere in that little, I don't want to call it a little Italian area, but like you get the East Hanover Park, Caldwell, Belleville, kind of that swipe across. Oh, I'm always there. I'm a fat guy. Anytime you promise me Italian food, I'm there. But great tournament there. Del Barton won it. Caldwell had a nice showing second. PCTI third. Biggest match I saw was in the finals when you had St. Benedict's Prep, Timo Mendbeleg, and he just beat Ethan Dowling on a takedown with a second or two left in the third. That's a match I kind of see. I think those guys are going to meet up, especially if it's down in states or other tournaments. And that was really impressive to me. But we had a great time calling it. Really enjoyed it. And then today, Sunday, yesterday, however you look at it. I'm taping this Sunday night, folks. I'm not doing this live in the morning, but it's earlier today. We were at the Queen Bee tournament in Bayonne. Got 2 hours there, some really great matches for the girls. Vernon looked really good. Got a chance to sneak upstairs and see Montville. They had it separated into two gyms. Lakeland did really well. Was very impressed by Caitlin Hart in her matches. She beat a state qualifier and Tracy Najaro from Manchester by pin in the second match. And in the third one, it was almost a brawl with the young lady from Howell. There was a lot of aggressiveness, but very impressed by Caitlin Hart at this tournament. We do have some, other matches coming up, but you know what? We're going to talk about that after. Let's head to the interview. I had a chance to sit down with Vin Russo earlier tonight. A man I consider a friend, a man who always says good word for me, a man my wife remembers, who my wife doesn't remember anybody. But I got a chance to sit down with Vin, go over some stuff. Let's head to that interview with Mr. Russo. I am gratefully joined here by a man who I consider one of the few friends I have in this wrestling business, who always greets me with a smile and a handshake no matter where I see him, the great Vin Russo. Mr. Russo, thank you for taking the time to join me tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Don. It's great to be here.
You're always one of my favorites. I always get the handshake. My wife, who doesn't know anything about wrestling, when I told her I was doing the podcast with you, she goes, he's one of the three brothers. I know who he is. So you made an impression on my wife, who usually is in a daze when she comes to wrestling matches. So
yeah. The Russo family has been very fortunate. We're very blessed. I have my brother Guy, who's the assistant coach at Del Barton. He's been there for 35 years. When he first went to Del Barton, they were the doormat of Morris County.
Yeah.
They couldn't win a match at the Morris County tournament. They couldn't win anything. And then my brother Mark, who started officiating about 20 years ago and has become a very accomplished wrestling official. He's in the state finals 3 times now for the boys. And It's quite an accomplishment.
As we were talking about, I saw him today at earlier today at the Queen Bee, and I always give him a little need. I'm like, Russo, get it. And so he saw me. He's like, he's like, another year. I'm like, yep. I'm like, we're ready to go for it. And it's funny. I saw your brother the day before. We were at the Caldwell tournament. So two great tournaments. But how did you guys get involved? Was it something that kind of they recruited? Because I know your brother and you guys had a great career. How did you guys get involved in the sport of wrestling?
Believe it or not, my in Bloomfield high schools where we went to, my brother Mark and myself. My brother Guy went to West Essex High School because my parents moved to Fairfield when I was a senior.
Mm-hmm.
I commuted back to Bloomfield every day because they allowed that back then. They called it senior privilege. So the way we got started was when we were about, I guess, 4th, 5th grade, my brother Mark and I, maybe 6th, 7th grade, we went to the Bloomfield Recreation Saturday. They had 3 different sports. They had bowling, they had gymnastics, and they had wrestling. My brother Mark and I had a very strong affinity towards wrestling. I mean, obviously, with 3 boys in the house, we wrestled each other many times, and that was the way we grew up. And that's how we got started. So we went to the clinic at Bloomfield, and before you know it, my parents were the ones who actually pioneered and started the South Junior High School wrestling team. There was no wrestling team when I went there. My parents were the ones who started it. And my parents then became the president and vice president of the Bloomfield High School Booster Club.
Oh, wow.
Yep, they started all of that. And I remember my mom going up and down Broad Street in Bloomfield, securing donations in order to have the first ever wrestling banquet. So they really were the pioneers, deeply involved in Bloomfield wrestling from the start.
Now, was that something? I'm sure obviously it was because they were your parents and they got involved. That wasn't something that they were. I don't think your father wrestled. Did he?
No.
So it was something because of you.
Correct. My father went to Barringer High School. My mother went to East Orange Catholic High School, and there was no wrestling for my dad. Barringer didn't have wrestling back then. I don't believe many schools really had it except the Roselle Parks and the Unions of the world
and stuff like that. The teams you hear about that have all the lineage, like Warren Hills or stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
About 10 schools in New Jersey that had wrestling back then. And my parents never wrestled, but they saw the affinity that my brothers and I had, Mark and I had. And they decided to go, they jumped in head first and supported us. And they took us every weekend back then. There wasn't many tournaments back then to go on weekends. Now there's 10, all over the state, you can find a tournament. Yeah. Back then, there was not much to find. We had to drive to Pennsylvania for the most part to get some tournaments in. And I remember the AAU was very popular when we were younger. AAU wrestling. And we used to go to all those tournaments also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we got our start. And
plus, I didn't think you wanted to wear a leotard, and I didn't know if you could do a back handspring back then. So maybe not going to gymnastics was the right choice too, and going along those. So you've been involved for a very long time. What are the changes you've seen? And you can tell me, what have you seen for the better, and what do you kind of think has hurt the sport since you were wrestling?
Oh, that's an easy question to answer, to be honest with you, Don. What's hurt this sport is it's become a full-time 12-month-a-year sport to be competitive in for the most part. For example, when I was in high school, you could start in 9th grade, or at Bloomfield it was 10th grade because there was no freshman class in Bloomfield High School back then. It was a middle school. Mm-hmm. But you could start in 10th grade, and if you were a tough guy and wanted to learn and listen, you could be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Now that option's not on the table any longer.
There's nobody walking in just being good.
No, that option's lost. I mean, it's very, very hard to be competitive if you don't have at least 4 or 5 years under your belt at the youth level. It makes it quite difficult to be successful. You might get 1 or 2 a year, but for the most part, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's super tough because especially, you used to see those kids who could pick it up and come in and do something. And then wrestling's such a hard sport that you get a kid who might be a little talented, a little raw. He gets out there, he gets decked a couple times. He's like, "What am I doing?"
He
Like
quit.
yeah,
He
he's like,
quit.
"I'll go do something else. I'll go lift weights and play football." Like,
Correct. That happens a lot. I'm going to concentrate on football. That's the answer you get. Wrestling's a very demanding sport. I mean, to my knowledge and my experience, nothing comes close. I always had friends of mine at Bloomfield, and I went out for the football team, and I was pretty good at football, but I decided to concentrate on wrestling. And come Thanksgiving time, I couldn't eat really a full Thanksgiving meal, and my other buddies are having gigantic, nice turkey dinners, and I had a little bit, and I had to go out and run.
See,
So
that's the difference. You were more in the middleweights. When I wrestled, I was heavyweight, so I had
right,
no problem. And I always tell the kids nowadays, I love talking to the heavyweights, and they're trying to cut to make 285. And a lot of people, especially young ones, I tell them, I go, back when I wrestled, I said, not sound like back in the day, but I was in the 90s. They didn't have a cap until 1995.
right.
So, and I was like, and so they said, what did that mean? I said, that would mean I would be at Mendham or another school, and Coach Bullis would be like, "Oh, all right, Brown, you're up for heavyweight. Oh, that guy weighs 320 pounds. Okay." That's what it was. That was heavyweight. And it was, people hear that and they go, "Well, how could they allow that?" And what they don't understand is that's just how it was. And then not only that, there wasn't a lot of guys who were 320 pounds who look like the guys who are 320 pounds now. They were kind
Correct.
of fat guys. So
Well,
if you were
Paul Finn,
quicker,
do you name Paul Finn by any chance?
yeah. And it's like, yeah, I get it.
Paul Finn was a heavyweight from Milburn High School. He was a state champ, and he was pushing 400 pounds,
Yeah.
and nobody could beat him. Just all he waited for was to get on top.
Yeah.
He just
My,
danced down for the first 2 minutes, and then once it came down to choice for top, that was it.
You were done. My
You were
father tells a funny story. He used to wrestle for Hanover Park in the 70s. And it was when Kittatinny was first opening. And we were talking about how everything was going on and wrestling. And my dad was a big guy at the time. He was, mid 300s around there, maybe, a little lower. And we were talking about it. I go, "What was the craziest thing you ever did in wrestling?" And he said there was a kid at Kittatinny, and he said it was the farm boys. So they would, do their work on the farm. They go to school, they wrestle, but that was kind of their thing. And he was a big kid. He went up there, and he said the kid he wrestled, and it might have been a little hyperbole. You know how the fathers like to tell a little bit of a tall tale, but he said the kid came out looking like Haystacks Calhoun, and he said the kid fell on him, and he said he didn't know what to do because no matter where he moved his hands, all he felt was fat. And he said he just couldn't do anything with it. But yeah,
That's a good.
I tell people that all the time. Like, there used to be no cap. I said that's kind of how it was. And
Yeah. Now on the benefit side of how the sport has transitioned is when you go to the state tournament now, there is nothing like it. The
oh
amount
yeah,
of
100%.
competitiveness and the skill set, the skill level that the wrestlers have nowadays is quite extraordinary. So that's how it's changed for the better. And I would take nowadays over years ago,
Yeah.
because it's quite enjoyable to watch and it's quite competitive.
And then like you were saying, the other aspect I like about it is, they have the descent plans. There's nobody doing anything dangerous,
Correct.
trying to lose weight quick. I mean, we used to talk about it, and we would see it at the matches. Like I said, I was a heavyweight, so it didn't matter. But you see the kids who are usually 150 running to try to get to 132 with trash
Or
bags.
rubber suits on. We
Yeah,
put on rubber suits.
yeah.
We would
We,
lose
we,
to 10 pounds in a practice. When you took that rubber suit off, the water poured out.
yeah.
Ups.
And now I think it's better for the kids and how they do it.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's a lot more. I think it's also a lot more nutrition. We didn't really worry about that back in the day. Like it was very much. Now kids have, we have a sponsor on our page, Champion Athletes, who does meal plans. Dan Warren.
Does he really?
Yeah, he does that. He does, and that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, that's like a big important thing. We would wrestle at Warren Hills, and then we go down to like the buffet and chow down, or we were loose meat sandwiches. Like now, kids are like,
Sense of a diet plan, that's for sure.
yeah, they're loving it. So
Yeah.
you've been around the sport, like I said, a long time. what's the craziest thing you may have ever seen at a match? Just is there any one thing that pop up that you go, wow, that's one of the one that sticks in there in the memory banks?
I have one that sticks in my mind. I was officiating a match at High Point. This is going back in the 80s, late 80s. And the coaches sat on two haystacks. There was a haystack in the green corner and a haystack in the red corner. So I'm officiating the match, and guy gets turned to his back. I go down there looking for a pin, and all of a sudden a live chicken flew over my head. Somebody from the stands threw out a chicken, flew right over my head. It was unbelievable.
That's fun. And you know what's funny? It's like you could see that at High Point. Like you just in your head, great school, but if you've been there before, you kind of see where it is in the country. So you can kind of be like, yeah, that's very possible that they would have the haystacks and chickens.
They enjoyed promoting that also.
Oh yeah.
That was part of their stick, so to say. When people came up there to wrestle, they got their money's worth. Then I was at a North Hunterdon match one time, and when the visiting team came out to warm up, the entire North Hunterdon stands picked up a newspaper and opened the newspaper as if they were reading and not interested in what they were doing on the mat. Everybody went nuts.
I love I love when people do that. It's always, especially with this, that's so much fun. Like student section, you going in there. I got to go to a chance to a couple of them. I wrestled in the pit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The old pit at Peaburg, that was scary. For a lot of people who weren't used to that area. Honestly,
quite intimidating, to be honest with you.
Oh, very, very. I actually, one of the very first, and I actually rode with them. One of the very first matches I covered when I started the site back when it was Morris County HS Wrestling, I rode up with the Del Barton team to go there.
Did you really?
And we were there and we're talking and we're kind of going in. I'm watching. I was like, yeah, you don't mind if I ride with you? They're like, no, we went up there. And these are kids who have wrestled all over. And just that gym, there were different looks on their faces.
Absolutely.
It was like, what?
Intimidating, it really is,
And then the other one that I always found sort of, and it's not so much the gym, but when I went to Warren Hills the very first time, and it's funny how it's designed. The first time I went to Kittatinny and had to go over those two one-lane bridges in like January, and it's like foggy and everything, you're like, where are we going?
Exactly.
Like,
it's no
we're
man.
in the middle of the nowhere.
Yeah, it's no man's land.
So we were talking about the rules. What are some of the new rules? I know there's a lot of discussion about it, obviously with the takedown, stuff like that. How can you explain what the new rules are? So if somebody's looking at it, because I know it's still early in the season, it's new for NJSA this year.
Sure. For years, for probably the last 50 years in wrestling, if you turned your opponent to his back, and the big key here is meeting criteria when you turn your opponent to his back, which means he must be at a 45-degree angle or closer to the mat. Not 90 degrees. It must be 45 or less. So for years, the rule was if the referee does two swipes, if you hold your opponent on his back in criteria for 2 seconds, consecutive seconds, it's 2 points. And then if you held your opponent there for 5 consecutive seconds, it was 3 points. That's been around for years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my strong opinion, they've improved that rule tremendously. Because now, 2 seconds, 2 swipes, 2 points. 3 seconds, 3 swipes, 3 points. 4 seconds, 4 swipes, 4 points. What that's created is a lot more excitement. Fans like scoring. Fans, for the most part, don't like a 1-0 match. That's not what they're there to watch.
That's usually heavyweight matches that go to the ultimate tiebreaker. We don't need a lot of
Correct. I mean, they don't want to see that for the most part. They want to see scoring. And what that has promoted is a lot of scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, now a takedown has been changed from 2 points to 3 points, which has created, you can get a 7-1 lead or a 7-0 lead in 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
If you go, it's 7-1. You do it again, it's 14-1 in the first 30 seconds. Now, I looked at a lot of the results yesterday on track wrestling across the state, and it's working because there are so many tech falls compared to the last few years. And, it doesn't take much to get a 7-point lead, a 10-point lead. And, the matches are going quicker. The dual meets are going quicker. There's been dual meets that have been under an hour, 45 minutes to do a dual meet because the tech falls are just saving a lot of time there,
Well, we did that. That was the one thing, because when we did our All-Star match last year, they had just instituted the new rules, and we did that. So I laughed because we added a full girls bracket, so another whole 2 rounds, and we started the same time as we did the year before. And I think even with the other girls, it might have been an extra half hour from what we
That's
usually
it.
get. So it was completely like everything. And you see that, and then the funny thing is, and with the rule changes, the one clamor I hear from the side is, well, if you're upgrading the rule, if you're upgrading the points, you should make a tech fall 20. That defeats the purpose.
Exactly.
That's like, it's not the same. It's just like, oh, we're going to add more points. We're not trying to get points and have fun just so everybody can have a big score on the scoreboard. You're trying to generate offense.
Correct.
And the one thing I've heard from a lot of the coaches, especially when I go out and I've been doing my preview videos, one of the things I ask them is, what are you guys doing for, this, getting ready for this season? And a bunch of coaches we're working on our neutral, because now you don't want to get taken down and be down 3-0 right away, and you want to be a little more aggressive. So it's only helping the sport where we don't have, like we were saying before. I understand heavyweight's a different ball game, but you don't want it to be where, you want to reward people for taking a chance of doing something, and
Well,
giving them a shot.
I'll be honest with you. When you look at the technical point of view of wrestling, it's very hard to take someone down. It's very easy to get an escape. A lot of times they let you go for free. They just let you go.
Cut you, just be like, all right, we're good.
Correct. To have a 1-point disparity between takedown and escape, I don't think was quite fair. Work so hard to get a takedown. You fight for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes sometimes to get one takedown. But now the score's 2-1 because you got it. I think it's much fairer with this new rule in place, where 3 points for a takedown and 1 for an escape. I think it's an equitable way to manage the scoring of a wrestling match.
I agree. I've seen it, especially so much this year, and what we've done so far. We've been out. Literally, I've been covering matches I even forgot today was Sunday. So I got home, and my wife, because we did a match today, and my wife was like, "Oh, you gonna watch the game?" And I'm like, "What game?" I'm a Giants fan, so I'm suffering. But I was so it's been a lot, and I've seen a lot of people, trying it out, especially more guys you see, and gals that you mean, but like, you see them being a little more aggressive, which is what you want.
Correct.
You want you want to promote the scoring. That's what you're trying to do, and make it easier, and have it that way. So I never understood that, and I mean, I understand, in the past, but you work hard you're working hard to work hard to get that takedown. It's like, now you're only really up by 1. So then if you're the shooter, you're trying to work hard for that takedown, and you make a mistake and you do a bad shot, now you're down, even though you were in control for the first one. It makes no sense.
Correct. Now, I'll tell you what rule that was introduced a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, was if your opponent pushes you out of bounds in the neutral position, you're called for stalling. And I'll tell you what that's done. It's created a major urgency to stay in bounds now, which I think is so important, because we've all been there where you see this, one guy's pushing a guy out for the whole first period, and the referee would be a little timid on calling stalling because the rule was not in place. Now with the rule in place, it's an automatic stall call if you back up out of bounds.
I've seen them called very early in matches. Like,
doesn't matter what time, Don. It could
no, but that's what I mean. Like, usually you would see, you in the old days, you let a ref would kind of be head that didn't want to bang somebody real quick.
Right, give him a few shots. Let him back up. I love the new rule. And I'll tell you, at the state tournament, I am the state assigner, as you probably know, and I predicate my assignments for the guys that are returning for the next year's state tournament, one of the major considerations are, does the official know how to call the stall call when going out of bounds? It's very important. Consistency is the most important aspect.
Yeah, you don't want to have it switch. You want to be able to it's like if you go to to use this analogy, if you go to a bar, that's how some of the chain restaurants are good, because they have the consistency. You don't want it to be like, well, somebody made the drink this way, somebody made it that way. You want to have that consistency, especially in those big moments. And you do a great job of picking who you guys have down there. It's very talented referees. There's always people complaining on message boards and such.
A story about that, Don. I took over 13 years ago as the state assigner. When I took over, and I'm not disparaging the former state assigner by no means, but back then, the only way the state assigner would assign officials was by coaches' votes at the regional tournament.
That's always a good way.
We all know what happens with votes.
Yes.
There's a lot of friendship votes. There's a lot of feel sorry for that guy vote. I don't believe in voting for the top officials to get the top assignment. So what I did 13 years ago was I put numbers on all the officials' backs. With that, I hired 32 state evaluators, 4 evaluators per region. What that created was a fair playing field for everyone. Some guys with the old system, if you were a schmoozer, you would get votes and you would get assignments because you were one to talk to the coaches to get the vote. Nowadays, it doesn't matter. I still do the coaches voting, but that's only 10% of what it takes to earn and garnish an assignment. Back then, it was 100%. Now, 90% is your evaluations and what my evaluators come back to me with to see who gets the better assignments or state tournament assignments. And I'll give you one other quick story here, Don. About, 8-9 years ago, I was sitting by, where I sit in the corner of the states, and the author of the NFHS happened to walk into the gym, sat down next to me. So I said, let me ask you a question. When did you get here? He goes, I've been here all weekend. I said, what do you think about New Jersey officials? He said, I've been to 39 different state tournaments so far. And he said, I can comfortably say by far, New Jersey officials are number one in the country.
Good praise.
There's a lot. That's coming from a guy who's been to 39 states.
Yeah, I mean, he's comparing them.
And I think that's it all.
Speaking of that with other states, I don't know if you saw the controversy at the Easton Nazareth match.
Yes, I did.
You're the referee there. Are you making that call, in that situation with what happened?
No. That's just part of enjoying the match. He underhanded the headgear.
He didn't use emotion. I've seen people spike stuff. That was kind of like hey, I'm done wrestling. It was a lunch pail mentality. That's how I took it. Like, it was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go shake hands now.
As things evolve, more information comes out. And the referee was a graduate of Nazareth.
And the one thing I'll say about you guys, especially in New Jersey, I know you guys actually have a form where it's a conflict of interest.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no way for anything like that to be a propriety. I'm surprised Pennsylvania, as big as they are, or if they just ignored it and were like trying to find the local referee. If it was a different referee, and I'm not saying anything bad about that referee, but if another referee who didn't have any ties to either of the school makes that call, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
You're right. But what he should never have put himself in that position, to be honest with you. Plus, it was alumni night, and he opted not to stand up as he was a state champ for Nazareth, and he opted not to participate in the pre-match festivities, so to say.
But he's gonna have a memorable night from that night.
I feel bad for him because, we all make mistakes, and he's a very nice guy from what I understand. And I feel bad for him. And, if he could take it back, I'm sure he would. But, things happen, and people don't understand what goes through an official's mind when, you're out there making split-second decisions. It's not as easy as it most certainly looks from the being in the stands. I'll tell you that.
We get to see it from the replays and everything else. So we get to see from in that moment, you got to make the call.
That's a different point of view. You have the luxury of watching it 3, 4, 5 times. But when you go on that mat, you make a split-second call. It's not easy to do. And, that all goes into my plan and my evaluation process is who can make those split-second calls. Not everybody can.
Mm-hmm.
Some people freeze. Some people are just too nervous, and takes time to achieve and to get to the point where you can make those split-second calls. But that's a big part of being a top-rate and top-notch official.
Speaking of officials, I know you guys are always looking for officials. It's one of the most in-demand job categories in the area, officials for events. If someone wanted to become an official, how would they go about it? I mean, we'll post when a link on it, obviously, if they want to go through, but how would they sign up to become an official?
We have our officials website, NWJ. Oh my God.
I'm putting you on the spot.
My God. NJWOA.net.
Okay.
Is our website. In there, it has a lot of information for everyone to see. Anybody can go on it. And there's a form to sign up. And then what happens is you get put into a certain territory of New Jersey. There are 7 different cadet supervisors in New Jersey. And Mark Sherman is the head. He's the cadet coordinator supervisor of the whole state. So Mark gets the information, and then he disperses the closest location to the official that's signing up. That's where he'll go for his cadet classes.
Okay.
It used to be a 2-year course. Now the NJSIAA has limited to a 1-year course, which is nice because if you're a qualified official, you can start doing varsity matches after 1 year.
That's great. I actually had and this also works just so everybody knows, if you're an official in another state, like I have a friend who was from New York, and he was a New York official, and he actually moved to Newton, and because he was going back and forth, and says, why don't you just do something here? And he didn't know how to go about it. So I got him set up, and I know he's doing a bunch of stuff there. But yeah, we're always looking for officials. The one joke I always hear from people is, everybody's always calling it from the stands. Put the number on your back and get out there and do it like you're supposed to and see.
What? Put the number on your back, and a lot of things change. I'll tell you that.
Listen, I don't want to hold you up anymore. Thank you so much for coming on. Merry Christmas to you and your family. I'm sure I'll see you at events coming up, but thank you for taking the time to come and talk to me today.
Don, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
One of my favorite people. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for the time, Mr. Russo. I really appreciate all the words. That was supposed to be, by the way, folks, I told him we would be 10 minutes. I think that was almost half an hour. So, and he still wanted to keep going. I didn't want to hold him up. So thank you so much for taking the time. Always love talking wrestling with him. It's always such a fun time. He's one of the few people when you go somewhere, if you have to work, it's not work when you're dealing with Vin Russo. He's always very accommodating. Now, speaking of work, nice little segue I did there, you know what I'm saying? We have some matches, and I had said to some people, we were going to have a Christmas present for all the followers on the site. And here's our Christmas present. We are going to be giving you action galore, action through the roof starting Wednesday. Wednesday, this December 18th, we are going to be covering a match. Matches every day all the way up to the 23rd. And we got a special double header on the 23rd. On the 18th, I'm going to be out as Hackettstown takes on North Warren at 6 p.m. We'll be live streaming that. On the 19th, we're actually going to be doing Warren Hills at Mount Olive, boys and girls. Girls is going to start at 6. Boys are supposed to start at 7. If it's the girls are going at 6, it may be a little longer, so it may adjust the time, but it'll be right around that 7-ish range. We're going to be doing both matches there. Then the 20th, we're heading up to PCTI. And if you guys know the last couple of years, these PCTI Clifton matches have been phenomenal. They met the last 2 seasons, they've met 3 times. They met in the Big North Duels, they're in the same conference, and they're also in the same section. So 2 really quality teams that are a little down this year, both of them, but are still should have a great matchup. That'll be at 6 p.m. on Friday. And then Saturday, we're going to be calling the Laker Holiday Tournament. James Clark and Mark Shazadeh is going to be on the finals. That should start around 2:30, 3 o'clock. It's obviously with a holiday tournament. You don't know. It just sometimes can get delayed, but kind of keep an eye on that. That'll be in there, and I'll be calling the 3rd place match right around the same time. They're going to do 1st place next to 3rd place and run there. Then on the 22nd, we're heading down to the Sunday the 22nd. We're heading to Bloomfield. We're going to be doing the girls' holiday tournament finals. Should be right around 2 o'clock. We'll make adjustments on social medias as we go. But that'll be fun to call that. And then the big doubleheader we got. Get up early with us on the 23rd. Have a little bit of coffee. We're going to be doing Wayne Hills at Jefferson at 11 a.m. Going to have that match. And then just 5 hours later, we're going to have High Point at Sparta. So you want to talk about 2 really good matchups, a doubleheader that you don't really see. High Point and Sparta. Sparta's going to want to obviously get, back on track after their matchup with Pompton Lakes, and High Point's going to want to make a statement that they're still legit with everything going on. And Wayne Hills and Jefferson was really good last year. So, I mean, it's another really good matchup. So that is our present to you. We are going to be covering matches galore. And with that, we have limited opportunities. And I say limited. I need to see my wife and family. I don't know if you people notice, my wife is pregnant. So I need to see her at least one night a week. But we have a few minor opportunities that I've talked out of trying to kill me by going and covering wrestling matches. So if you have a match and you like what we've done so far at any of the streams, call us. We could set something up. We could come out with the one camera. We could do multicam, replay everything. GardenStateHSWrestling.com is your premier provider of high school wrestling coverage in New Jersey. Boys, girls, even community colleges. You're gonna love what we do for your program. They love the fact that we come out, we bring the show, we bring the go, we make your team the star of the show. That rhymed. I like that. I'm gonna keep that in mind. I just took that off the top of my head. It's a nice little rhyme. But other thing, follow us on. If you want to be a sponsor, you could be one of the sponsors on our stream. You could be a sponsor on one of our pages. You could be a sponsor of the main page. Go on one of the pages. There's a your ad here. Click that, fill out the form, goes directly to me. Or you can send me an email at admin@GardenStateHSWrestling.com. Goes directly to me. Fill out your information, what kind of business you have, what you're looking to do. We are very affordable. We are very pushy when it comes to making your business grow and getting the word out. And we will give you and tailor a package that's affordable, works for you, and shows you the results. You don't want to donate money or spend money on a sponsorship and then all of a sudden you feel like you've wasted it. We want to make sure you're getting the bang for your buck, and that's what we do here at GardenStateHSWrestling.com, the premier high school wrestling provider in all of New Jersey. And if you want to follow us on our socials, on Facebook at GardenStateHSWrestling.com, on X, Twitter if you want to still call it that, at GardenStateHSW, on Instagram, GardenStateHSWrestling.com, and YouTube. Like and subscribe. Click that notification button. You'll get notified when we have podcasts like this, upcoming matches, everything. You will basically be notified about everything with high school wrestling. So follow us, like, subscribe, do everything you need to do. I'm rambling a little bit because it's been a long weekend and I got to get some rest. So until Wednesday, when I'm on the call in North Warren, I'm Donald J. Brower for Jared the Podcasting Legend. We'll see you next time.